Hello and welcome. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Tonight, House of Representatives in Rowdy session as lawmakers vote on the various clauses to amend the 1999 Constitution. Senate passes bill seeking to establish the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Agency, which may limit the powers of the EFCC. NNPC suspends oil exploration in the Lake Chad region following an ambush on its workers by suspected Boko Haram terrorists. And France moves to stem the flow of migrants to Europe, plans hotspots in Libya to process asylum seekers.
On business news tonight, federal government plans to increase value-added tax on luxury goods, household and consumer items to drive revenue.
While on sports news, a Brazilian court clears Barcelona striker Neymar of any criminal charges in a long-running tax evasion case in Sao Paulo.
We begin tonight in the nation's capital, Abuja, where the vote for the amendment of the 1999 Constitution today moved to the lower chamber of the National Assembly. Amid several rowdy sessions, the House of Representatives concluded its consideration of the bills on the alteration of the document, rejecting the bills on devolution of powers to states and on the Land Use Act. The lawmakers, however, endorsed independent candidacy, cancelled state and local government joint accounts, and reduced the age qualification for the offices of the President, Governor, membership of the Senate, House of Representatives, and the State Houses of Assembly. We'll have more on what transpired at the House later on in the bulletin. But now, years after files containing personal finance information about wealthy individuals and public officials were leaked in what's now known as the Panama Papers, experts met in Abuja to draw lessons from the experience. Under the auspices of the United Nations Development Programme, the two-day event provides suggestions on ways to stop illicit financial flows from the African continent. Of particular interest to the experts is an estimated $1 trillion said to have been removed from developing and emerging economies in 2014. Our correspondent Ibrahim Adra reports.
Representatives from different regions and diverse economies, including officials of financial institutions and bodies across Africa, meet in Abuja for a consultation. They are a select group united in an urgent need to improve public tax and fiscal transparency in African states.
It's an important forum for us. We are looking to the recommendations of this workshop and also the prescriptions on the way forward. We're also using it to build partnerships with other colleagues that are here, organizations, African Union, ECA, African Development Bank, Exim Bank, and so forth, to see how we can jointly work together to help countries develop these frameworks.
For a continent said to be home to 50% of global poor, there is a paramount need to stem the illicit flow of funds in order to reduce significant loss of revenue. The size of Nigeria's economy and its place in the region predispose it to the menace that is said to hamper its socio-economic development.
The Panama Papers themselves just reflect that they are hiding places. But with things like the automatic exchange of information for tax purposes, countries will be sharing information on the monies in account, on properties held. So it will be harder to hide resources. So to the extent that you have a scheme like VADE, yes, it's a response in its own way to the issue of illicit financial flows and the Panama Papers.
Experts believe that the GDP in Africa could grow by 15% if illicit financial flows can be halted. It's a task that may be achieved if ideas from fora like this one are implemented. But it's a huge challenge that critics argue requires effective leadership.
It takes leadership to make that kind of thing translate.
The UNDP is optimistic that its strategy of engagement of African leadership will indeed achieve the consultation's objective of improved tax collection and ultimately curb illicit financial flows. Ibrahim Adra, Channels Television News.
The United Nations Anti-Slavery Commissioner, Sir Kelvin Highland, is calling for stronger international collaboration to reduce human trafficking in Nigeria. Delivering a lecture in Abuja to mark the 2017 UN World Day Against Human Trafficking, the United Kingdom envoy says Nigeria tops the list of countries involved in human trafficking in Africa. Also at the event, the Catholic Archbishop of Abuja, John Cardinal Onayekon, also drew the attention of the government to the current trend of trafficking of human organs.
The 2017 Trafficking in Persons report by the U.S. government downgrades Nigeria to a Tier 2 watch list, which means that the country is not doing enough to combat human trafficking. At this conference to mark the 2017 Anti-Human Trafficking Week in Abuja, the Anti-Slavery Commissioner for the United Kingdom calls for a strong international collaboration to curb this international crime.
Nigeria has consistently been one of the top countries of origin of victims. We must collaborate with a common aim to protect those at risk of trafficking.
In his remarks, the Catholic Archbishop of Abuja asks the government to pay attention to an emerging trend in the human trafficking network, the sale of human organs.
Permit me to mention three particularly criminal forms of human trafficking that are crying to heaven for vengeance. Human trafficking for child labor, human trafficking for sexual exploitation, human trafficking for human organ markets.
However, both the Attorney General of the Federation and the Director General of the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, appealed to ECOWAS states to close ranks and stop the scourge, as most of these states serve as routes for traffickers.
I strongly urge at this point for the ECOWAS countries to close ranks and weave an impregnable anti-human trafficking architecture that will resist the ravages of traffickers.
But must also recognize the necessity for active international cooperation and collaboration, as it is a crime which transcends national borders.
Although human trafficking is a punishable offense under the 2003 Trafficking in Persons Prohibition Act, as amended, this criminal activity has continued to thrive, with over 6,000 victims recorded in the last 5 years in Nigeria. Therefore, experts are campaigning emphatically for a new approach to addressing this terror once and for all.
Regional leaders across Nigeria have continued to hold talks on critical issues generating public debate in the country, especially the restructuring of the federal system of government. Today, northern traditional leaders and governors of the 19 states that make up the northern region met in Kaduna to discuss the issue and other challenges which they consider to be impeding growth and development of the region.
All the 19 states that make up northern region are represented here. The governors of Borno, Kaduna, Nasarawa, Bauchi, Jigawa, Adamawa and Sokoto states were all in attendance, others represented by their deputies. But the meeting is not just for political office holders. The Northern Traditional Institution is also represented. The Sultan of Sokoto, the Emir of Kano, the Etsu Nupe and the Shehu of Borno led other northern traditional rulers to the crucial meeting. Top on the agenda are the issues of unending debates on restructuring Nigeria, insecurity in the region, attacks by herdsmen, underdevelopment and poverty eradication. But they have a bigger issue to clarify, and that is the eviction notice issued by a group of northern youths to Igbos to leave the region by the 1st of October.
It's also my expectation that at the end of this meeting today, and God willing, tomorrow's meeting of the Governors Forum, and our esteemed royal fathers will adopt a consensus position or restructuring of the country that will be reflective of the general overall interest of the people of northern Nigeria and which will attract popular acceptance.
The traditional rulers are not also happy about the eviction notice. The Sultan of Sokoto is also the chairman of the Northern Traditional Rulers Council, Alhaji Abubakar Sahad. says the traditional rulers have been very proactive in resolving the dust raised by the ultimatum.
We are not short of solutions or other recommendations to solve our problems. But what we are short of, all of us, is sincerity of purpose, commitment to really do what we say publicly and openly.
The host governor, Nasir El-Rufai, is more worried about the issue of security in the region. He says a collaboration among traditional rulers will help address the problems.
The festering source left by previous conflicts in which proper closure, accountability for crimes, and reconciliation were not effected appear to be accelerating a descent into impunity, and a situation in which many elites are too short-sighted to recognize the dangers of embroiling their communities in cycles of violence. The message needs to go out to our communities that peace requires a determination to have peace, sustain peace and protect it.
The meeting later entered into a closed-door session, and there are hopes that at the end, these leaders will come up with a workable solution to the various problems confronting the northern region.
To security matters now, Boko Haram terrorists hiding in undisclosed areas in the northeast will be in for a tough time as the Air Force have vowed to smoke them out of their hiding places. The Air Component Commander of the Counter-Terrorism Operation Lafia Dole, Air Commodore Tajuddin Yusuf, says the deployment of new fighter aircraft and helicopters will further boost their capacity to ward off attacks.
In the last few weeks, there's been a number of Boko Haram attacks in several parts of the northeast of the country, even as authorities maintain the group is losing ground. This is reaffirmed by the Air Component Commander, Operation Lafia Dole, Air Commodore Tajuddin Yusuf, during its quarterly media briefing in Yola, the capital of Adamawa State. He insists Boko Haram has lost its capacity to seize and hold an entire town.
There have been sighting of a few Boko Haram activities in the Sambiso general area, particularly Parisu. In light of this, for a large part of the second quarter, the air component conducted significant ISR mission in Sambiso general area. In addition, our ISRC observed Boko Haram terrorist activities in some part of northern Borno, such as Tumbunrego, along the Green Belt in areas like Tumbumbaba, and in southwest Maiduguri in areas like Alagarno and Mangusu.
According to Air Commodore Yusuf, the deployment of its newly acquired aircraft has not only enhanced their operations, but has also helped in boosting morale within the rank and file.
The F-7, Alpha Jet, Mi-35M provided close air support for the troops from April to June 2017, flying a total of 27 sorties, which is 10 sorties less than the mission conducted in the first quarter. The drop in close air support mission is indicative of the fact that the ground forces had less contact with Boko Haram terrorists than recorded in the first quarter. The implication here is that the insurgents are largely on the run and their capability to wage significant offensive has been curtailed. Evacuation missions were conducted using Mi-17, AC-135 and Agusa 109 LUH helicopter. These missions continue to improve the survival rate of wounded in action and sick troops, thereby positively impacting on the morale of the fighting troops.
He also highlights other achievements of the operation during the period under review.
Some of the achievements include the conduct of significant liaison and humanitarian outreach missions. A few notable ones include the extraction of Chibok girls from Banki to Maiduguri, airlifting of INEC officials within the theater, provision of cancer screening and treatment to women and internally displaced persons camps, medical outreach and surgery for IDP.
Responding to a question on how the adverse weather condition is affecting the fight against the insurgents, Air Commodore Yusuf responds this way.
The challenge posed by the season is affecting both sides of the conflict because it's a bit difficult for the ground troops to move because of the nature of the soil in Maiduguri. If you understand it very well, most of the equipment could easily bog down. We have the technology to check the weather, analyze it, and know when to operate.
While significant progress may have been recorded during the period under review, the expectation from Nigerians, especially those living in the northeast of the country, is that the Boko Haram group is completely routed.